Hello. Hello. I got to make that a little bit longer so you can read it. Um, we are doing a session of Debate Prep Live where we are going to prepare our cases for particular topics that you might find yourself assigned. So today we're going to be talking about the topic that the United States federal government should increase the ability to vote by mail. So, uh, mail-in voting is something that got really controversial over the pandemic when we were having elections, and a lot of states increased the ability to vote by mail. And so, what do I got in my hair? Yeah, I don't know. Something's in there. So a lot of dandruff. The controversy really crested during the pandemic, and now it's kind of been one of the topics that people talk about in general. And there are some really good arguments to be had on both sides, depending on your position. But I think that there are some interesting things to say. This topic is also worded in a particular way to open up certain strategies. But today, all we are going to do is we're going to focus on the affirmative, the very first speech, not the affirmative side. No, we're not we will be making arguments that are trying to set up rebuttals, but we're just focusing on the first affirmative constructive. So we're focusing on a debate called IPDA, the International Public Debate Association, and that format has a 5-minute opening speech. Okay, so I'm also going to be using ChatGPT in order to help us get through this, but as well as just doing some basic Google searches and other things like that. But let's start with ChatGPT. Okay, so one of the tricks to using ChatGPT well, and I'm going to get it to 4, ChatGPT 4, because I'm special like that. All right. You can see that it has a cap for 25 messages every 3 hours. Now, my goodness, they must be getting adjust for demand. Goodness gracious. So I'm sure that will change over time. So as you're watching this video, if it's significantly into the future, you can sort of see what the situation is right now. But the thing about using AI is the ability to prompt it effectively, all right? To give it the right commands so it knows how to respond. And I want to take a little bit of time to take a look at what I did here. So if it's a little too small for you to see, I'll read it, all right? Imagine you are the affirmative in a debate with the topic, the United States federal government should increase the ability to vote by mail. All right, hold on, I'm going to move some stuff around on my screen. You won't be able to see it, but there we go. By the way, if you are watching live, you can post comments and I can answer them in real time. So please feel free to do that, especially if you are one of my students, okay? So imagine that you're the affirmative in a debate with the topic, the United States federal government should increase the ability to vote. I put that all in one sentence, and it kind of sets the scene for ChatGPT. Generate a 1AC. I've been finding that if you're just very direct with your sentences, start with definitions. Explain how this is a policy resolution. So what I'm doing in the I'll even kind of amend this. Start with definitions in 4 parts, and then I'm going to put just a colon right there. Explain how, then define terms, then propose a plan text with funding and enforcement, then explain this debate will use the criterion of net benefits. So what I do is I say I'm going to do 4 parts, and then I explain each part in itself. So explain how this is a policy resolution. It's just that the type of it is fact, value, or policy are useful distinctions, not absolute distinctions, but they are useful distinctions when you are looking at resolutions. This one, I think, falls squarely within the traditional notions of a policy debate. It even has an actor, the United States federal government, or an agent named in the resolution, and increasing the ability to vote by mail is a policy. So explain how this is a policy resolution, then define the terms in the resolution, the words in the resolution, propose a specific plan text. I even asked for funding and enforcement. I think that might be a bit overkill, but I like just I like editing down rather than writing up. Okay. And then with funding and enforcement, then explain this debate will use the criterion of net benefits and what that means. So I really, really spend the time to explain what I want in like the first minute. I think ChatGPT is kind of weak in that area. So if you are writing an affirmative using ChatGPT, I would kind of either get really good at these prompts or expect to do some editing afterwards to make it a stronger introduction. It's like you can write stronger than ChatGPT can. ChatGPT writes fast. You can't keep up with how fast it writes, but you are definitely a better writer. All right, so next, explain that this debate will use criteria. Okay, then have two advantages, each organized around the stock issues of harm, inherency, solvency, and impact. So I just named them, but I didn't direct it like where to go from there. So I kind of give it some freedom to explore what those arguments are like. Here we go. We are going to press enter. It starts generating. Voting by mail. Yeah, okay. What do you start? What are the actual first words out of your mouth? Um, this one is saying, it's like, oh, just start with the topic. You can have a little attention getter. I would not say, hello, my name is, don't start with your name. Don't start with your name. But for voting by mail, you can start with like maybe a little anecdote. It's like, does everyone remember when election day was coming and, COVID-19 was just still everywhere. And so there was this big debate about mail-in voting. Well, we're going to have that debate today. Our resolution is. So that's how you can lead into it, right? So it's at the plan text stage right now. Let's take a look and see if we could go up here. Definition. The affirmative will argue is in favor of this policy resolution, which calls for a specific action to be taken. Okay, so you know what? That's actually really compact, and I like it. I like how compact that is, because identifying this as a policy resolution is not really the most important part of this speech. It's just important to get it out of the way early on, right? And then definitions. It's like we have three branches of government. You can just say, we're going to talk about Congress is going to pass a law. It's the government. You could just do that. Increase to make greater or more substantial and ability to the capacity. Okay. So ChatGPT is not very strategic. At this point, you want to make it more substantial. I would do in debate what we call operationally define this. I want you to explain what increase means in the context of voting by mail. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up a Google search, which is strange to think that this is now old school, but we're going to do vote by mail states. There we go. I like that one. Vote by mail states. And we're scrolling. Take a look. We have states with all mail election. Okay, we have a table that might work. All mail voting. Democracy maps. All mail voting states. Okay, and that's what movement advancement project. Let me see if there's any news sources, maybe. LA Vote, that's the LA Registrar, Where Americans Vote. New York Times, we're getting there. Postal voting in the United States. Wikipedia, if you want to give just a background, that's fine. That's fine. Mail-in voting, or rules by state, and all the, you know what, NPR, I like NPR. NPR is kind of a solid, no-nonsense, boring news source. And so, which is, not great for entertainment, but really great for information and having reliable information. I think that they really care about it. I checked this one out before and I like it. So it even has pretty little maps in those hexagon shapes. See that? So why am I doing this right now? It's because I want to have a better definition for increase, because what I want to know is, what is our ability now? How can I define the word increase, or even ability, in terms of voting by mail? What are people allowed to do now? What are they able to do? And there's a few different things. There are some states that automatically send out mail-in ballots. There are some where applications are automatically sent out. Okay, so you have to apply to vote by mail, but the application is automatically sent out. This one, they can request to mail-in ballots, but they don't get an automatic application sent to them. And then this is where voters need an excuse that they need to actually argue why they see these ones they make no restriction on if you want to do mail-in ballot, then we'll do it. Just tell us. But this one is kind of like, no, you need to tell us why you want to mail in the ballots, and then we'll decide if you are allowed to. Okay, so a very common argument or a common affirmative case is to ban the need of an excuse thing. So it would be like, no, anyone who requests a mail-in ballot should be given one. There would be no excuse needed, or you could send it out automatically. That's also as well. But at a minimum, everyone should be allowed to vote by mail, no excuse needed. That's a common one because it's the lowest level of, all right. You can go higher than that. You can require all states to send out mail-in ballot applications, that they are required to do it by a certain deadline before election day. That would be like a step up. My point is that now you can define that. It's like we're going to increase, is like you're going to say we're going to require all states, or we're going to ban any state from having an excuse needed for election ballots. That's what we're talking about. That's how we think increasing will happen. So you see how it's an operational definition. You are defining it in terms of the operation that you are advocating. So it's like, if we do this, we think that counts as increasing. So you can kind of, yeah, right? Then the plan text will require, look at that, no excuse, vote in mail operations. All right. They have to offer it. And so it doesn't explain whether that offering has to be automatic or by request. But so regardless, that'd be the lowest one. See what I'm saying? So look how specific, how much more specific that is than you just talking about. It's like, oh, mail-in ballots and mail-in voting is good for democracy. You're still going to make that argument, but you could get on a deeper level than that. Okay, you can really like give it a almost like a plot line. You can see it as like people in action, or like they say that they don't want to get sick, and then Indiana says, nope, sorry, you still have to come in to vote. You have to risk illness to come in and vote. That would be doing it, right? Okay, this is why I think this is superfluous. I'm going to allocate $2 billion in funding to support. Okay, I don't know if that's how much money you need. I don't even know how to find out how much money that would cost. I don't think that the funding of this bill is going to be the central argument in the debate. Okay, so you can do that if you want to be prepared for financial arguments. I think that you should prepare other arguments first. And if you run out of time, don't worry about it. You can make arguments about how this expense is worth it because it is, making elections more accessible. It's a fundamental component of democracy, making sure people can vote. How else are you going to know? It's like you still get into the democracy arguments, right? So the funding argument doesn't tend to have a whole lot of traction in a debate like this. And the enforcement Department of Justice, okay, I guess. Sometimes they have a like elections commissions or something like that. But I'm just showing you what can be done. And also, I can't think of anything off the top of my head where that would be a central component in the debate. I would be entertained to see an example where that does become central in the debate. I would like to see that. Okay, criteria net benefits. See, look, we will use criteria net benefits to evaluate the impacts of our plan. Means that the advantages and disadvantages of the policy will significantly outweigh the drawbacks. So just advantages versus disadvantages. And then take a look. We have advantage 1, and then we have advantage 2. So it's like, listen, we're going to say that there are more advantages than disadvantages. Here's 2. And now now you say, all right, your turn. Tell me about disadvantages. See what I mean? You're just like, I just scored 2 points. Let's see how many points you can score. It sounds really fancy. It sounds really complicated, but that's all it is. It's like, okay, here's the topic. It's a policy. We're going to talk about um, no excuse voting, mail-in voting. Okay, here's the plan for the no excuse voting. There's going to be more advantages than disadvantages. Here's 2 advantages. But you could say it kind of in fancier terms, so you look like a smarty pants. All right, everyone likes looking like a smarty pants. All right. Reminder: if you're watching this, you want to comment at any time, go ahead, or even afterwards. Like I'm a sad human being, and I respond to comments. Okay, here we go. Accessibility and participation, and then election security and integrity. Now, this is interesting because when I did this before, you can see over here on the left, I did this before, right? They had 2 different advantages. Let me show you. I did the same thing. I kind of copy and pasted it. Take a look. Definitions, plan text, a little bit different. Net benefits. So participation, right? That's the same, but public health and safety. Look at that. So there are at least 3 different advantages now, and ChatGPT is putting it out there. So you know what? I'm even going to do generate another advantage about public health and safety. Advantage, yeah, it gives you number 7. There you go. See, and it still follows the stock issues. Okay, so notice I'm going to get on the stock issues in just a little bit, but I'm kind of on the big picture now, right? It's like you had 3 of them. There was one about security integrity. That's cool, but I might put that in my back pocket and wait to use, because you're going to have another speech in the future. You're going to have a rebuttal speech. And if they bring up election security, you have responses now immediately. It's like, dude, I got 4 responses to your argument, bro. All right. And so I would put that in my back pocket, and then I would put this public health and safety in my speech. So what you're looking at, let me go back up here. These definitions, you probably need to whittle it down. You probably need to cut some, okay? Because you only want to take about a little over a minute, maybe, like, 70 seconds to get these definitions out. Not only 75 seconds, okay? And then the remainder of it, like, you want to have for these advantages, which are almost 2 minutes each, right? Because each one of these is going to be like, you should spend about 30 seconds explaining each one. Don't just read this, by the way. This is just the beginning. This is like, you need to now insert this into your speech. Should I go like that? You should insert this into your speech. Okay. Like, you're going to be citing NPR October 14th, right? And now you're going to go and you're going to say, many citizens face difficulties due to work. And this is where you start doing research. All right. You go to the database. All right. You watch the video lesson on research, on how to do research. You visit your library and maybe and use their resources. Maybe they even have workshops on how to use the resources. And you're putting evidence into this one. Currently, many citizens face difficulties. For instance, I found this article from the New York Times on this date, on September 12th, 2021, that talked about how many people can't vote because of work or certain things. Okay, so and then, so it's only giving you the generic outline. You need to fill it in with research. If you go up and you only read this in front of an audience, it is really noticeable that you're not using any actual evidence, that you're not citing any sources, that you're not talking about real events. You know what I mean? It's like it's all generic and amorphous. It makes sense. It, like, logically, it has a sequence to it, which is great, but it doesn't mean that you are done. You need to fill that in. So inherency, existing voting options do not, like this one, you could say, which states are they? The NPR said that the states that require needing excuse are Indiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. So these 5 states are now going to be forced to either provide mail-in ballots by request or automatically. Either way, they are they have to provide with no excuse needed. Okay, so it, and they already have ways to give people mail-in ballots, right? Like say when you need an excuse for it, like that means they have a system. You just got to stop preventing people from using that system. Oh, maybe you talk about how many people were. You know what? That's a great question. How many people were denied? You can ask ChatGPT, but you want current information. So this is more of a like a news search or database search. I'm just going to do the internet, but you should really check out library databases. They're much more powerful. Um, how many were denied in states? All right, with no excuse absentee vote. Here's a problem with mail-in. Hmm. Oh, that might be coming. Yeah, I'm not seeing it right off the bat. You'd probably have to open up one of those. But like I said, those databases, and I don't want to show like using certain proprietary databases live streaming, but it for you might even uh, yeah. Oh, look at that. If I'm just gonna force it to say must include. Okay. Okay. So I don't know. People are denied the right to vote. Okay. Mail voting haven't been made fault from. Okay. Here's what your state stands in mail-in voting. Voting during a pandemic. Mail ballots are issued in states consider new rules. Routines. Yeah. Um, voting rights. I might even go. Let's take a look. Let's take the biggest state. Okay. Um, Okay, look at that. See that? Notice what happened was I was trying to look for like an overall number, and I should be looking state by state. Okay, that 12% of mail-in ballots were well. Those are the mail-in ballots, not the excuses. Oh darn it. Okay, okay. Make sure that you're on top of it. All right, so that you know which one. Um, Notice a rejected ballot that you're like on point. Okay, so that is also a problem that those mail-in that the ballots are rejected at such a high rate, and so that could be a disadvantage to look out for from the negative. But take a look. What I would do is I would take all of this information. Um, all right, I'm going to highlight this. Let's see how it. What I like doing is I like putting it into actually a spreadsheet, and it look you have each part right here. You might want to spread that out so you have your different parts. And now, if you're, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to format this. We're going to wrap it. See that? Now you can see it so it doesn't blend all over there. And now what you could do is you have it set up where any responses that your opponent has, you could write right next to it. Oh, darn it. If for some reason, I'm going to slide this over a little bit because it's screwing me up. Okay. So if for any reason your opponent has issues with your definitions, you would write the issues that they have with the definitions, right there. So you do that right now, so you don't have to do it later. You kind of understand how it's all laid out, right? You put this all on a spreadsheet, and then you put the notes that you are taking from your opponents right next to it. But if you are watching the video and you need to respond to it, this is also a good way to do that. You can put your own notes about how you are planning on responding to each of those issues right next to it. And so it's in a grid form rather than like in a document form. And it's easier to follow those things. You could even keep on going when into the future speeches. All right. So look how easy that is. If you want to like do all the different subpoints, like because there's the they have all the different subpoints. If you want to put them on each their own line, that also makes a lot of sense to me. If you want to just kind of keep it like this, I think for the purposes of a simple debate, it still works. It's still helpful. Um, so it's really what you make of it, how you want to keep track of your arguments and how things were doing. But it also allows you to make changes, right? And so and I'm not going to use uh, the entirety of this definition. The United States federal government, we are going to focus on Congress. That's it. Nice and short. Increase to make greater or more substantial. You know what? Capacity or potential for action. To increase, that's for increase the ability. So I could do that's the point B. So increase the ability is instead going to be um, look, I'm just going to write it. I'm going to say increase the ability. I'm just going to say that's removing barriers like excuse requirements for voting. So if we remove those, then that increases the ability to vote. And what you're doing is you're challenging your the debate opponent to prove you wrong. It's like, do you have an issue with that? And maybe they do. Maybe they do, and they bring it up. But I think this is pretty a common sense, straightforward approach to defining the terms. But you see what I'm doing is like I'm not taking what it's giving me and just running with it. Like so, instead of doing prepaid postage, and so one thing you could do is just and instead of doing you just say funding and enforcement by normal means. That's a lot simpler, right? If you want to kind of keep that information about how much it costs, the prepaid postage, like I don't know, maybe it is prepaid, maybe it's not. Like all you have to do is when the the net benefits, right? The criterion afterwards. That's all you got to win. More advantages than disadvantages. It's like that's not a like when you say that. Well, not everyone's going to be able to mail it in because they don't have prepaid postage. It's like, well, still there's more people than now, so I'm winning still, right? That's not a disadvantage. It's only like a solvency mitigator is what we call it. All right. There's the advantages. I probably would put those on like each of the stock issues on a separate in a separate cell. I definitely would. Right? You see how it's like all one big paragraph in a single cell? I'd probably just move those things down. Um, and hell, even so this can move down a bit. These two. So I'm going to put them down here. And then I do it the stupid way. So I'm doing the cut and paste, but not copy and paste. So it makes it easier. All right. So, and there's just hotkeys. So you could do uh, with Mac, you could just do Command X, and then you press enter, and then Command V, paste it. I believe it's not Control X. I think it might be, yeah, I don't know. Figure it out on a PC, okay? Not my problem. Boom, boom. See that? And now you got, and but I would still, I'd still put this, I'd make it wrap. So you do um, format, wrapping, wrap. There you go. Change the letter color to black, change the column to green. I do this command backslash. Oh no, it just did it. Command Z. All right, there we go. Okay, there you go. And now you got yourself a nice, and go through and modify it now, right? It's like point by point, sub point by sub point. Um, hell, you still have even more. Like if you don't like the advantages, if you want something a little bit like do something crazy. Feel like I generate another. I don't know what it means to have a superhero advantage. Empowering everyday heroes, hilarious. Current voting systems. That's great. Like, look how like creative this is, everybody. I didn't know what was going to come out when I said have a superhero advantage, but look at the figurative language that it generates based off of this, but still within the context of mail-in voting. Um, to inspire and empower citizens to embrace their roles as everyday heroes contributing to the democratic process. That would be so entertaining. That'd be so entertaining for you to, and now you still have to have your evidence, right? But it's like a fun, playful way of introducing your advantages, a fun, playful way of debating in general, thinking about themes that you're introducing beyond and above the just the mundane topic in and of itself. All right. Um, yeah. So it's still the participation advantage. It still is, right? Accessibility and participation, but it just puts it into the language of celebrating heroes. So have fun with it, everybody. Okay. It's like, I mean, I understand that it's like sort of exacting and, dry and bullet pointed, and the topic is, a little bit complex and political and like all that stuff, but it doesn't mean that there's zero room for you to insert a voice and insert some levity, insert just creativity in the way that you approach things. Notice that I did not take the first thing that it produced. I'm like, I don't like that advantage. I want something else. So I'm going to do the public health and safety one, right? Oh yeah, so that's what I would do over here. Like I would replace the security one with public health and safety. So I'd paste that in there, and then I do research on that one. And now I'm researching health statistics, and putting it in there. And maybe I'm running with this sort of theme that I'm doing. Look how helpful ChatGPT is for creative ideas and voices and finding like different things that you like and experimenting. That's what debates are. They are these spaces in which we kind of experiment with different arguments, seeing how they sound, using refutation to kind of really hear it, not just sort of assume, but actually hear the arguments made. Okay. Ultimately, it is what you make of it, but I gave you a number of different ideas. I showed you how I would organize things if you were, especially in a competitive debate or a debate assignment for class, is I would recommend doing it this way. And yeah, good luck on any topic dealing with mail-in ballots. Okay. All right. See ya.